Talk about corruption, part 2. ALEC and who's funding them. In my video yesterday, I talked about who started ALEC, which was this guy. And we talked about how someone who's an evangelical Christian nationalist could start something that could eventually become as big as ALEC is. And we don't even know who ALEC is, but we kind of do. But, I mean, do most people? I know I didn't. To recap, they started in the 60s. In the 90s, they weren't doing so well. But also in the 90s, major corporations were not doing so well, getting laws, legislation passed that would protect them. So Paul saw an opportunity there to use these major corporations' funding for his company, and he would write the laws for the major corporation. The laws we're talking about are laws that protect corporations when they're doing bad things. And they're still doing that, and way more. So what's important to know is which corporations are actually in bed with ALEC. Duke Energy, Peabody Energy, Vistra, Marathon, Chevron, and American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers. That's the list for big oil. And I know you knew Big Pharma was in there, right? Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Bayer, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Novartis, GlaxoSmithKline or GSK, and Alkermes. Okay, so now let's look at big transportation. UPS, FedEx, Transurban, BNSF Railway, and Norfolk Southern. I'm mentioning the larger companies, but there are smaller companies that are probably involved as well. Big telecom. Charter or Spectrum, CenturyLink, AT&T and Verizon used to be a part of it, but I think they've since left. I think they left a few years ago, actually, and hopefully are still gone. Color of Change is actually a company that's been effectively fighting them. They noticed that they were writing laws to suppress people of color. But because this is a white evangelical Christian nationalist company, they're writing more than just laws that suppress people of color. They're writing laws that suppress anything that doesn't line up with those views. It would be scary to think a company that huge or an organization that huge could be lobbying, right? But they are lobbying pretty much so obviously that even the IRS has been like, hey, now, come on. They've even had people inside of their company come forward and say, I think we might be lobbying too much. Since some larger corporations have been leaving in the past several years, ALEC may find themselves declining. Maybe not, because they do have the Koch brothers and a few others like them. We'll get into that in the next video. In the meantime, I think it's really important that we look at these companies and what they're doing and come up with ways to combat this. If we all keep opening our eyes, we'll get there.